if I'm talking to a seller right when I get on the phone with them, I'm pulling it up right here, and this is what I'm looking at, and then obviously through conversation, I figure out, okay, it says 3.1, is that it? Oh, we added a bathroom, okay, total square footage is 1444, sweet. And then I'm looking at the recent sales in the area. Zillow's a little hard in Texas because they don't show the recent sales, but he figures out there's houses around there that are 3.2, 1,400 square feet that sold around 220 to 230. So this is what we're now going off of, right? So if I'm talking, I was gonna do a live seller breakdown, but I feel like we don't have a ton of time for that. So what I do wanna go through is just like what I do to negotiate a deal, and then how I pivot to the different exit strategies based on what they say, right? So I actually have this written down because we just did this training with our wholesale team. Is anyone else targeting pre-foreclosures right now? Anyone? A lot of people in here probably? Okay. So pre-foreclosures is a unique because it's that conversation is going to be quite a bit different, but I'm getting to the point, like let's say we get to the point, hey, they're ready to sell. So this could be any lead. It could be they inherited the house, they pretty much just know they need to sell. So you got to that point already. When we're talking to pre-foreclosures, they don't always want to sell, right? So that's the hard part, is they got to get them to that point. But let me get to this real quick. All right. So first thing, coming from door-to-door sales, there's like a lot of things I think a lot of people don't realize in sales. And the first thing is just the intro, like what are you doing, why are you here? And then it's build rapport. And then I'm gonna always credibility. I can't spell credibility. And pullback. Does anyone here like know what a pullback is? No. Sales wise?
Yeah.
I'll get into it in a second. It's just no, a little bit. You're in sales.
I was gonna say it's like they say yes, and then it's like you get to the sale and they're like, whoa, no, I don't want to do it.
Well, I would say disinterest on you don't want to push all the way.
It's making you, if you're just throwing your money at everyone, then they know they can offer, like they have all the power. You want to be in the power. So like if you have all the credibility, you buy a lot of houses and you realize like, hey, this might not be a good fit for us, that's a pullback. Like, hey, this might not even make sense for us. So I'll get to that in a second, but pullback is huge. A lot of people forget to do that. And the moment they do that is when they can get deals. Like I've been in a house with Anthony before and we're like, maybe this just won't make sense. They won't sign. And we just pack up our iPad and then on the way out, they're like, okay, well, maybe they call us an hour later and it's like, because we didn't feel like we need the deal. But that's what a pullback is. And then the biggest thing after that is just qualifying it. So it's 4 pillars, which is pretty standard in all wholesale. So this is going to be the motivation, the timeline on what they need to sell, which for pre-foreclosure is a given, right? But this is just, again, standard across any lead that you're talking to. And then condition and price. So I have to get these things to be able to qualify the lead, right? If there's not motivation and someone's like JVing with us, just don't even send it over, because this is the biggest thing. They're like, oh, like this person wants to sell, they want to get an offer, but like they literally have no reason to sell. There's no financial distress. They didn't like inherit a house. There's no reason to even like talk to them, right? And then how quickly do they need to sell? What is the condition? And then what are they looking for? After that, I go into educating them on the process. Sorry, I'm going through this bad handwriting. And then, let's see, verbal commitment. And then we got renegotiate and close. So the reason I put this here is like we were training all of our guys, and I think we give them like a script, and they're like, I can't follow a script. Like I need to know what's the next point that I go to. So if I'm talking pre-foreclosures, again, this is like I gotta convince them why they realize they need to sell. But any point they get to the point where they need to sell, intro is like, hey, we're X Homes, we're Caruth Brothers. We buy houses in this area a ton. We're super familiar with the area. We'd love to buy it if it makes sense. Building rapport, like the intro on the call is basically gonna be like setting the foundation for it. Like at the end of the call, we're either gonna show you like, how we can get you an offer if it qualifies, or we'll point you in another direction if it doesn't make sense. And then building rapport, I always try to get them to laugh or connect with them. Like if you can't get past that initial guard, then you're never gonna be like, so many people work with us just because I was on an hour-long phone call with them and they just like know everything about me. I know their entire story, their business, like why they want to sell their house. We're talking about their job, you know what I mean? If you can figure out why they even want to sell the house, oh, we've been living here for 30 years, no way, you guys are the new ones on the block. Like, it sounds stupid, but if you're genuine and you actually take interest in them, like the people that you guys probably like most are the people that take interest in, you know, you take interest in whatever it is, you ask them questions. So like, we came from door-to-door sales, me and Dylan, like most people bought from us and the first 10 minutes on the sale, like they didn't even know what I was doing probably. Like they were talking about the house they had and whatever else, and they're like, oh yeah, what do you do? Oh, like you're gonna love it. And then they buy from us, but it's like they were talking about themselves for 10 minutes.
You gotta
and so like,
a friend before you make a sale.
Yeah, exactly. If you can just make a friend, I think so many people that are new, you don't even need to get to all of this, right? This is something you learn, and that's why we do this, is we want to help people close deals. But like, if you can just make a friend and know that you're buying houses, and you know they have motivation, if you just get to this point right here, you can JV with anyone that has this experience to get the deal closed, right? So this is really just like qualifying the lead, get the motivation. The rest of it is actually taking to the finish line, right? So building rapport is huge. If you don't build rapport, if that guard is up, I might get to this quick, but then I'm still gonna try and build rapport after. Like I got a lead under contract recently where like this lady had a huge wall up and she wouldn't give me anything. Just what's your offer? What's your offer? Like, hey, I gotta figure out the details of it. So I skip right to here. I qualify these things. And then I'm like, I mean, it may not make sense, right? Like we might not be the people for you. And then I figured out she's a nurse, she's trying to retire, and then we connected for 30 minutes on the report, and it happened down here. But this is like crucial. If you can be genuine and figure out, you know, what their situation is and they like you, that's gonna be way big. So credibility goes in that too though, because if they don't trust you, they're not gonna sell you the house. Like if they don't know that you can buy houses and you don't do deals, they're not going to sell you the house. So it's like I drop hints in every time, like, yeah, we know that area super well, even if I don't. Like, fake it till you make it. Like, yeah, we know it super well. We do a lot of deals in that area. You know, we'd love to buy if it makes sense. A lot of our underwriters have been in that area forever. Like, they're going to tell me what makes sense to buy this house, and we're going to try and get you the highest price. So the biggest thing that I didn't really put in here is underwriter is the bad guy. Like, don't be, even if you're a solo person, when I'm on the phone, I'm not the one running the numbers on them. I want to be the one connecting with them, building rapport, getting all the trust with them. My underwriter is the dude that's going to give them, like, hey, like, I'm going to fight to give you the highest price, but at the end of the day, like, Peter does a great job of this. He literally, I'll hear him on the phone, he's like, yeah, like, if I could, I'd give you $1 million, but, you know, my ass is grass and they're going to fire me if we try and get you that price. Like, we're going to lose money in the deal. Like I have a family to feed too, right? So like if they
doesn't exist, it's just me. So.
Literally, you put someone on hold, which we'll get to right here. But the underwriter is the bad guy. So like if you're not the one giving them the offer, then they can't be like, oh dude, like come on, you're gonna make money on this. It's like
you just want to be on the same team as them, right?
Yeah, you're literally put yourself on their team and then leverage someone else to be the person giving the offer. Puts so much power. It puts all the power in your position because you're like, we're gonna see if we can even get you qualified. Like I'm prepping this at the beginning, like I want to get you qualified for an offer, but at the end of the day, if they tell me no, like I'll at least give you a reason why it didn't make sense. I'm like, okay, sweet, like let's see if I can get qualified. Now they flip the mindset of like, you're not the one throwing money at them, they're trying to see if they qualify for your offer. So credibility and pullback, that touch on the pullback right there is like, we buy a ton of houses, but at the end of the day, the market's tough right now. Stuff's sitting really long, like we've lost some money on deals. We have flips sitting on the market right now, and this is real. We had a flip that we listed at 349, 360, and there was a comp for that when we listed it. And luckily we got this deal under contract at 190 from doing this, so we have a ton of room, and we had like 15 grand repair, so it was a huge deal, but it just sold, or it's about to close at 318. We listed at 360. So imagine if we didn't do all this, we didn't have a big spread, there's a lot of people losing money on deals because of the market, right? So I tell them, the market's tough, it may not make sense. If it doesn't, we'll at least give you another option or point you in another direction. And that's the pullback. It's like, I don't have to buy this deal. We have all these deals that come across our plate, and if your house doesn't make sense, we just won't buy it, and no hard feelings, cool? And they're like, sweet. And now they get that guard down from the beginning. They're like, okay, cool, like, I don't have to feel like I'm like, you know, in some sales pressure resistance. But 4 pillars is just qualifying a lead. So motivation, you know, Miss Jenny, why is it that you're even looking to sell this house? Again, if this is a pre-foreclosure, we know why, right? But Why do you even want to sell? Oh, okay, I want to downsize. I inherited the house. I can't really keep up with it anymore. It's too big. Whatever it is, don't just glaze over it. Like, dive into that. So many people are like, oh, okay, yeah, completely get it. And they're like, shit, what do I say next? Like, they just told you that they have cancer and someone's dying, and it's like, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, I'm sure that's been a pain. Like, is it to get the money so you can relocate? Is it to pay for medical bills? Like, dive into the motivation, because now they're thinking about how nice it's gonna be to get cash for their house. Like, they have to have real motivation, because when it gets down to this and they're getting a price that's obviously not gonna be what they want, they gotta have a reason to do it quick or to do it with ease, right? I'm talking a lot, losing my voice, but motivation is the biggest thing. I don't even want to go into the rest of this if there isn't motivation. So that's usually what I get to get right here. Okay, they want to sell your house. And if you are setting a lead for someone, I might just be like, hey, my underwriters are the ones that really figure out the rest of it. I might qualify the timeline and condition, but for them to run the numbers and the price, I could set that appointment to someone. But first thing, motivation. This ties right in with motivation, because if they say, Miss Sally, like, in an ideal world that you could wave a magic wand, how soon would this be sold? Like, how soon would you want the money in your pocket? And she says yesterday or today, like, that thing is highly motivated. So we want to see this, but it kind of ties in with the motivation. If they say, oh, I don't need to sell it, it's 6 months from now, whatever, there's probably not a ton of motivation, or maybe it's they just need a time to relocate, figure out whatever their issue is. Condition, you can't buy a house or wholesale house if you have no idea what the price is. But the biggest thing right here is I want them to tell me everything that's wrong with it, because I'm mentally knocking down the price. Like, if they tell me I haven't updated this house in 15 years, and you want to make it very conversational, but when I talk to someone, I'm like, okay, looks like you lived there for 30 years, like, you guys updated anything while you've been there? Is it kind of the standard stuff, like, oh, we did a bathroom, okay, cool. Is there anything that's not working or anything that you would fix right now? Oh, well, the roof needs to be replaced probably, the AC is not really working, we haven't really done anything else. I'm like, okay, if they're not telling me anything, like, you had 30 grand to spend, like, and you had to fix up something or update it, like, what would you do? Oh, well, I'd probably rip out the carpets, I'd replace this and this, and you can start to picture in your head, like, pull it up on Zillow, maybe there's some pictures, this thing's completely outdated, the roof needs replaced, the AC's shot, right? So they're just telling you everything that needs work, stuff that they don't want to spend or do, and that's why they can't list it on the market or sell it retail. It's like this, this, and this, and whatever their motivation is to get rid of it quick, right? So I want to harp on this. I don't want to, like, ask a million questions. I don't even need to be a contractor. Like, for the first 2 years, all I ever did, if you want to put any of these notes in your phone, is $35 a square foot is how I calculated my repairs. So on this house, I know we kind of started with this number, right? 1444. Keaton, what was the, like, majors on the house? Was it like what worked, what needed to be replaced?
Roof was like 4 years old. HVAC 4 or 5 years old. Not a ton of settling in the foundation. So the majors were
every major was all right.
Yeah, it was cosmetic.
So cosmetic. So basically, the roof, foundation. These are like the 5 majors that people look at for that are going to be the most costly, right? The AC, electric, and plumbing. So was the plumbing good?
Needed repairs.
Okay. So plumbing was bad, roof's okay, foundation's okay, AC's working, electric's good. So, like, I'm gonna go, and you could go higher on this, right? But like $35 a square foot times 1444, that's 50 grand. Plumbing, that might be another, add $8,000 on it, right? So 58,000 is how I just calculated my renovation costs. There might be flippers that could do it for $30 square foot. I'm always going to overestimate, right? So 58,000 was my repair budget, but basically, as she's talking about the condition, you figure all this out, right? You figure out the roofs in that condition, foundation, plumbing, shot, and all of it needs to be, all the cosmetics needs to be redone. So then I get to this point, like, okay, Miss Homeowner, it sounds like, if you could sell it as is on your timeline, obviously there's a lot of things that have to be done with it. I'm sure you don't want to spend that money to put it on the market. That's kind of why we're sitting here having this conversation. If you could just sell it in the condition it's at, like, what is the number that you're expecting to get from an investor? I don't even try and say, like, what is the number you want, all right? I already got them to realize we're credible. This might not make sense. If we're going to, sell it on this timeline, the house is in this shape, you know, at this condition, in this timeline, like, what are you expecting to get? Try to get them to tell you a number. And at this point, hopefully I found out, okay, like, all the things they want to sell it for, they're the ones on the deed, right? You need to make sure you're actually qualifying them a little bit on, make sure that the owner of the house, which I didn't even touch on, but that should hopefully happen at the beginning. Some people won't want to tell you a price. Like, just make me an offer, make me an offer. And I'll redo all of this, right? And then I'll get 30 minutes in the conversation, like, okay, cool. Like, it sounds like, you know, you had a number in mind. Is there a price that you're looking to get? And I'll ask again. Oh, well, you probably won't take anything less than 200. And now you at least threw something out. Like, even though the Zillow says 220, we've at least done all of this. She gave me a number, so I at least have an idea in her head. I don't ever want to make a number first, because if I tell her a cash offer and didn't educate her on any of this, and I give her 100 grand, she's just gonna be pissed and try and hang up the phone, right? So I almost always need to get this number first. And there will be people that bait you on this and just won't give you a number, right? But I'll just re-ask the question, like, hey, our underwriters take on a lot of properties, and they're not really gonna take a look at this and spend all the time if you don't even have a number in mind. Like, if we're not even at a ballpark, it may not be a good fit, and I don't wanna waste your time, right? So if you had a magic wand, right, if you could just tell me a number, my job is to fight for you to get that price. Like, sounds like you have something in mind, right? And I'll ask again. And really, if they don't tell me anything, either way, I go to educating on the process, which is any investor, our company, we're gonna buy houses at 70% or 60% of the retail value minus any repair costs. And the reason that is because we have holding costs, we have taxes, insurance, utilities, private money costs, all the repairs, things that they're not thinking about that we have to pay for after we buy it, plus repair the house. So if we don't buy it at this price, like, based on our underwriters, we're gonna lose money and I might get fired, right? Again, the underwriter is a bad person. So I educate them on that. I show them, if we're gonna buy it cash, it's gonna have to be like 60, 70% of the retail number minus the repairs. And that way they can kind of tell, okay, you mentally like lowered that price a little bit. So if we can get to a number that, you know, you wanna get to, and this is where I get to this. I haven't even given the number, right? I want them to give me a price. We explain that we're gonna buy it at 60, 70% minus the repairs for a cash offer. And if I can get my underwriters to get close to something that, you know, makes sense, is this something that you're ready to get the ball rolling on today? And the reason I do that is I want them to like verbally picture in their head, like, I'm taking action on this. Because if I know they're ready to take action and I go back to a price, obviously it's gonna be lower than what they want, but if we can start negotiating and we get to something, we've already got the yes from them on something. Like, hey, yeah, like they're waiting to see if they qualify. They already told me, yeah, I'll get the process started if we can get an offer that makes sense. So I get the verbal commitment to them, and then this is where I'm gonna go to the underwriter. I said, cool, I got our underwriters right in here. I'm just gonna, chat with them real quick, see what we can do, and give me like 30 seconds. I'll literally put the phone on mute and go back to our underwriters. And that gives me more time to just run this back on Zillow. Like, if I haven't done that yet, I'm going back on Zillow and I'm seeing, okay, 220 ARV, it's 1,400 square foot, 3.2. I saw 2 houses nearby sold for 220 and 230, and I know it's 58,000 in repairs, right? So this is another thing that a lot of people like. I know I have a lot of stuff on here, so hopefully this isn't too much. But if you're looking, you have to think of it from the person that's gonna buy the deal, if we're talking wholesaling or if you're flipping, right? So if you buy a house at if you can sell a house, at 220, after closing costs and commissions to realtors, they're gonna lose 6% to realtors, 2% for closing costs. So 220 times 0.92, you're looking at 202, right? Most flippers should probably hope to make 40 grand, depending on the value of the house, 30 to 40, depending on their margin. So let's say 40. This is, again, the end buyer. And you're at 162. Now you got 58,000 in repairs, which we overestimated, but again, being safer, you're at 104. So for a flipper, I know I can make 40 grand if I buy this at 104, but I want to wholesale this. And someone comes to me and I got this at 110 or 115. Like, depending on the buyer, you might be able to move it, talk to our Armando or whoever, and maybe if someone wants to hold this as a rental property, right? But if I'm flipping this house and I want to make 40 grand, 30 grand, like, I gotta buy it at 104. So me locking it up, I know I need to be, if I want to make 10 grand, I want to be at 94, right? safely.
Any financing costs in there?
Yeah, that's kind of like factoring in 40. I typically have 45. This is a pretty low value house. I usually put at least 45 for profit. Like if you're going higher in value, it's a $600,000 house. Then I'm usually doing like times 0.7 minus repairs, because you got to be a lot more careful. One price reduction on a $600,000 house and you're, screwed. But if you don't follow this, you just do 70% minus the repair costs. But anyways, so I get this. My first offer, if I'm talking to this homeowner, is probably going to be like $79,000, and I know I can go all the way up to 94 because I can still make 10 grand if I get it at 94. I'm actually curious, what y'all get this at?
We just signed it at 115 to 102, 103.
It's pretty money. So you signed it, so you got up to a buyer at 115. So they were probably factoring in their repair costs at probably less than 58, I would assume. Depends, but
He would be able to
What area did you go?
220.
220, maybe 230.
So again, this is kind of like pretty spot on though. Like
Yeah.
if I were to flip it, I probably wouldn't go over, honestly, like 100. But for some flippers, they're looking for that deal. It makes sense for them, right? So you get out 115 and you guys locked it up at 102, 12, 13 grand assignment. But to finish this off right here, we educated on it, mentally dropped that down. We got a verbal commitment. They already said, yes, if I can get to a number today, we'll sell it. Cool. Let me talk to my underwriters and see what we can do. I'll put them on hold for like 2 minutes. I've literally had a lady one time was talking with her mom, not realizing she's not on mute. Like, oh yeah, like, I don't know if it's, I think they say they might be able to do like 150, but I don't even know if it's worth that. I'm just letting them talk. Like I'm on mute and they're just telling me how they don't even think their house is worth this. I mean, just came back in there, yeah. Just dumping it down, like, oh, it was amazing. But some people, like, they don't even realize you're on hold with them. They don't even think that they're on.
Lost 30 grand.
Yeah, exactly. So put it on mute. Put it on mute. Let the other person be the bad guy. Now I'm looking at this. I run comps, get with whoever else. Okay, I see. I want to start this offer at like 79. I want to anchor them low, and I might be able to come all the way up to 102, right? And so I say, okay, sweet, Sally. We actually just got back from the underwriters. It came in a lot higher than I was expecting, so get it a lot higher. And we did get a cash offer approved. Based on everything you said, the underwriters had it all the way at, and I don't try to give a round number. I say 79,800, and then just sit in silence. And this is the most uncomfortable thing for everyone that's new. I just got off the phone with a guy that we were he was sending us a deal in Michigan. The guy did the exact same thing. He looked on Zillow, he saw it was worth 120. It was a tiny house in Michigan, and he wanted 120 for it. Stuck to this whole process, got all the way down to here. He told me, what do you expect to get at the price? He even said, on Zillow it says 120. I told him about our process, how it works, put him on hold. I'm like, yeah, underwriters came in, it was 56.5 and sat there. And we literally, and I had our friend on, he was listening to the call. I'm like, don't say anything, don't say anything. I sat there for like 15 seconds. He was like, can I do 60? And I was like, I was like, we kind of like, and this is where you don't want to like be a motivated buyer again. Like, yeah, sweet, lock it up. Like, honestly, like, our underwriters have a pretty strict process based on everything we sent them. They were pretty tight on that number, but is there anything you can tell me about the house that maybe we haven't talked about that could get it up to that value? Like, I want to go back to them and at least give them something to see if they can budge on that price. And he's like, oh, I redid the electrical, like it's brand new, you don't have to do anything on the electrical. And he's like telling me the stuff that we didn't talk about, like it's in a great neighborhood. You can walk to both of these lakes. And I'm like, oh, no way. Sweet. And so he's telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, let me see. We don't want to lose a deal over $4,000, but like, let me see if they can get them tight on it. Let me just put you on hold for like 30 more seconds. And I went back to it. All right, like I was haggling with them. We actually got them up to 59.5, and we can get it done on that time frame. And he's like, okay, cool. And then you just assume the close from there. From there, I'm like, I don't even ask questions. I'm like, hey, in order for this done on your timeline, we're gonna have to send it to title. I wanna make sure I shoot this over to you so while we're on the phone, I can get it all back to my team, and I'm shooting it over on DocuSign or CRM, whatever you have. And I want them to fill it out right there. Don't send the contract and get off the phone. Even with this guy, we end up having to schedule an appointment tomorrow because he wants to do it in person. But I sat there with him and I said, hey, it should be in your email. He's like, I don't see it yet. And then I know he's looking at his email. Okay, cool. I sent it over and I'm walking him through it. He's like, all right, it should say your name, our LLC. It says we're buying as is. Here's the price. And we can close in this time frame. Cool, just initial at the bottom. Typically, they just walk right through it and they just tap the buttons
How
and
are
sign.
you gonna get them through the contract? You just like give them the bullet points so they don't really read it all?
We use a standard 3-page contract. If you're using like a Trek, you could do, obviously that too. In Texas, it's a lot longer, so we like the standard one. But our contract is pretty much like their name, our LLC, property address. It says we're buying it as is, the cash price. And so I'm pointing them to the things they want to hear. It's just like, here's the number you're getting. Here's where it says we're buying it as is. Here's the close date. All this other stuff is, our title company. We use Independence Title. They want to make sure they insure the transaction. The bottom is just saying I didn't agree to do anything else like mow your lawn or do your dishes. I always make that joke when we were selling door to door. Like, you get someone through a contract that's uncomfortable, make jokes and build rapport again. Like, hey, it's super simple. Honestly, the title company just needs a lot of this to make sure you're actually the owner of the property and that we can start the transaction. But it's pretty simple, just initial at the bottom. I want to make sure it kicks back to me, and that way we can start the process.
How much time, if any, do you spend explaining the contingency costs, inspection period?
0.
0? You
Yeah.
don't even touch it?
No.
Yeah.
So I'm showing them like, hey, if they ask questions on it, I do. But like, when you're buying off-market distressed house or not a realtor, right? I'm not going into like earnest money, all that. I'm like, hey, we're gonna have to be able to. I do have a part in there that says, not contingency. It says like being able to see the house. What is that word? Access to the property, basically, like reasonable access. And it just says on our contract, it says reasonable access, and it's just like, hey, this just needs to make sure, like, before we close, we need to do some walkthroughs. We might have to get some contractors in there, measure some stuff, because we're gonna have to get buyers in there. We're gonna have to send contractors. So I'm just prepping them like, I'm gonna have to go in your house too. And they're, oh yeah, cool. Are you typically working from 9 to 5? Like, when's the best time to send people over if we have to? And we'll let you know in advance, and then you're just prepping that ahead. But that's pretty much like I don't even know how many, it's like 10 steps that we go through. And again, if it's a pre-foreclosure, we can do a whole nother training on that, because they don't want to sell their house. And that's like a whole nother sales funnel to make them realize they need to sell their house. But yeah, ARV times 0.7 minus repairs is safe. But the 92% is like, you got to think of it from the flipper's perspective. You can't get a deal locked up and expect to sell it if the flipper is going to make no money. But yeah, talked for a while, so
Right.
answer any questions if y'all have them.
Learned a lot.
Any
That works for me on the price is if you get people that are like, oh, Zillow this, Zillow that, I'll just figure out their payoff and then just say, how would it feel to have $50,000 deposited in your bank account in X amount of time? And you play into their emotions. They're not even worried about, oh, well, my house is worth X. It's just, wow, I mean,
Yeah.
40 grand, I have like no money.
You turn it the other way around, I do that a lot.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can ask the question like, what's important to you? And a lot of times it's either, it's gonna be price, stay in the house longer, or find a new place to live. And if they say stay in the house longer or find a new place to live, you can almost name your price. Obviously, you don't want to screw someone over, like make sure they're getting what they can
Yeah.
get. But you don't even have to negotiate price at that point.
Yeah, it's almost always something else. That's why the motivation's the biggest thing. Like, I don't even want to, and this is really tailored to just any off-market property. When it's a pre-foreclosure, that deal we're closing on, the huge flip, he never even talked about the value of the house or the price whenever Peter locked it up and we were flipping it. And it was like, hey, like, how much money do you need in your pocket to be able to stop this foreclosure and move? And he's like 40 grand. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
We figured out what his payoff was on the mortgage. Like, all right, talk to our underwriters. Okay, it looks like we can get you like 41,000. Okay, sweet. And then we're doing the math on the purchase price being 195 or whatever it was.
174.
175, and he owed 135. You know what I mean? So figure out what it is that they really need. Sometimes it's literally like, I just need help relocating and being able to move all this stuff. And it's like, okay, we're gonna get you set up with a mover. We're gonna help you get this. Like, you gotta be able to figure out what their actual problem is.
With price, I never think it's like, or a lot of like with the deals I close, I find myself never talking about the number, like the price you're actually giving them for the house, but like the money that they're getting in their pocket.
Yeah, that's all I care about. Foreclosures.
Well, even like in any other situations, like, hey, my wife's sick, like, we need to get her into a home or whatever, like, we need a $10,000 deposit, we need a moving truck, this, and I'm like doing math with them, like, guys, we're thinking we're gonna need to get 14, 15 grand in your guys' pocket to be able to get this done, and we gotta do it in 30 days kind of thing. So it's never, hey, we're giving you 160 for the house. It's, hey, this offer with your payoff and any other liens on the property should put that 16, 17 grand in your pocket where you've got a couple bucks to spend too, and they're like, perfect.
That's what.
And then it's not like if my house is worth 300 now, I'm taking a 160 offer. It's like,
What's also just simplifying, because a lot of people don't realize
Yeah.
that they've never sold a house before, so it's like, they don't do the math, like, okay, you're buying it for 200, my mortgage is 125, how much am I making? Just tell them how much I'm making.
Just sell them on like the destination, and like the end
Yeah.
goal rather
Yeah.
than the process.
Which is so funny with this
No,
guy.
seriously though, they're just like not thinking about it.
And with this guy, he didn't probably realize, he could tell he didn't talk to anyone that had made him a cash offer. And it's like, you're gonna say, you can't think the lead's not a lead because they said, I want the Zillow number. But like, I get to this point, I educate him, and then I like, even before, I'm like, oh man, like, yeah, we typically buy 50, 60% of retail value, whatever. I'm like, I gave him a number. I'm like, that's a big hit, no mortgage on it. That's a big chunk of change. You're gonna be able to have the move. Like, I was like hyping it up, like 60 grand in your pocket. And like mentally, he's probably never had that in his bank. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane. Yeah, you're getting not the Zillow number. No one can buy it at that price, but like you're getting 60 grand in your pocket.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And I'm like, it's gonna put you in a good spot.
A lot of our contracts, we even put like on sales price, see paragraph 11.
Yeah, define it as a sub 2, but just cash selling.
Yeah.
So like on paragraph 11, it's basically pay off any other lien plus $20,000 cash to seller. So I always like really walk them through that and say, hey, look, this is what's going to be required to your account. But you have to be careful because it can bite you.
If there's another lien and something that cuts off the deal.
Yeah, but if it's a very emotional close, like that's huge for us. That's our go-to for sure.
it's kind of smart if you like figure something out though, because we had a deal we did, and we figured out the payoff was 20 grand lower.
Yeah.
After we got it to title. So
It
that
can
was-
go either way.
that was-
Did anyone take a picture of this? I also like, we've been posting more on YouTube. I'm pretty sure I have an entire YouTube video on this, but if anyone wants to take a picture,